The Marvel Cinematic Universe's multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little. In Marvel's comic book world, though, we do know quite a bit since there have been many multiverse adventures over the decades, and these are the stories that inform what goes on in film and TV. With those adventures come many new characters or variants on current ones that cross over to and from their worlds, and one of those is Rintrah, a being who evokes the imagery of ancient Greece's Minotaur, and who hails from an extra-dimensional planet called Raval. Who is he? Let's talk all about Rintrah. First, thanks for watching JLS Comics. Hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with all of our weekly content, and with that out of the way, let's jump right into our story. Though Rintrah first appeared on Peter Gillis and Chris Warner's 80th issue of Doctor Strange in 1986, our story starts a couple issues earlier, issue 78, with an ancient and mysterious being named Enitharmon the Weaver. Enitharmon knows how to weave fabrics incredibly well, but more than that, he studies and understands not just physical fabrics, but the fabrics of reality and of time. The weavers studied the weave of life sewn by the Norn witches that live at the base of Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life in Asgard, as well as the Ganuga ghosts. He also knows both Agamotto and Kalu. The Weaver lives in a splintered alternate reality at the archipelago of Anguish and Redemption, which are fractured realities like the Dark Dimension whose commonality is their connections to Earth. There he lived and trained his apprentice, an apprentice named Rintrah. So after a battle with a demon named Cat, Doctor Strange's cloak of levitation was damaged, and Strange was able to find an oblique reference to Enitharmon the Weaver in one of his scrolls, and so he opened a portal to his reality. When the two met, the Weaver recognized the cloak, for he knew its prior wearer, the Ancient One, whom he'd met one time. The Weaver agreed to sew the cloak back to health, but it would take time and come with a cost. Later, after a battle with a sorcerer named Urthona, who wanted to steal Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, Strange was mortally wounded and was stuck in a hospital bed while Wong, his assistant Sarah Wolf, and Topaz were left to defend the Sanctum themselves, but failed. The Weaver knew he had to return the repaired cloak to the Sorcerer Supreme, but instead of doing it himself, he sent his apprentice, the novice sorcerer Rintrah, to bring it back as well as to help Doctor Strange defeat Urthona. After Rintrah made his presence known in Strange's reality, Strange and Rintrah boarded a Skrull spaceship that they had gotten from the Fantastic Four to head to Gavaltu. On the way, Rintrah let Doctor Strange's astral form possess his own body so Strange could heal and recharge. And it was there that their master-apprentice relationship really began, though unofficial it was. As they approached their destination, the ship was ensnared by Urthona, so the Doctor Strange-possessed Rintrah attacked Urthona. He fought back even as Wong was injured, but Urthona repelled and stunned Strange with the blood hunger of the night, which he had cast from a book called the Darkhold. That's when Rintrah possessed Strange while Strange was in his body, and he was able to fix Topaz, whose soul was fragmented in an ongoing story while Strange destroyed the talismans, and they were able to defeat Urthona for now. And thus ended that volume of Doctor Strange, but the story continued where Rintrah and the group took the Sanctum Sanctorum back to Earth so Strange could repair it. Rintrah came to Strange's side to help him defeat a water elemental, which was one of Shuma-Gorath's monstrous agents on Earth. Strange was forced to kill that person, and distraught because he had taken a life, Strange secluded himself in his house. Rintrah, Wong, and Sarah then talked about their concerns for Stephen. Rintrah said he was but a humble messenger from another plane, but knew enough to know that when a master kills, it shakes him and the world to its core, and that knowing the way the warp and woof of the worlds are woven, the concept of choice is a strange one. Doctor Strange called out from his chamber and Rintrah smashed through a wall to get to him, really underscoring the part of his character, the unwavering loyalty, which was an innate part of Rintrah's character. To defeat Urthona meant destroying artifacts that kept evil at bay, and with them gone, evil was coming through, and he couldn't stop them. Their first battle was with Erlikon's servant Cat, and Doctor Strange had a rematch. They fought back and sent them away in a circle of flame. Topaz left, and Sarah was cut by a demon, so Strange decided to leave the Sanctum in Wong's care, but he said to Rintrah that he had a good amount of mystic power in him and a purity of spirit that Strange might need to draw on in the days to come, so Doctor Strange took Rintrah away with him on his journey. Before they left, Doctor Strange wiped his friends' minds of all memory of Doctor Strange. As for the rest of the world, they thought Doctor Strange was dead. Rintrah and Strange traveled by boat to Hong Kong, where Strange cast spells of disguise on them, and Rintrah took the form of a boy. Their first encounter was an evil known as the Wings of Needless Sorrow. They had to sacrifice a little boy in order to save hundreds of other innocents who were under the thrall of evil, and it was a bitter victory that ended with Doctor Strange giving Rintrah the Eye of Agamotto to guard, for Strange no longer felt himself pure and worthy of wearing it. The pair left Hong Kong and traveled to a snowy inn in the Himalayas on the border of Kamar-Taj. They met Jigme and revealed their true forms to their guide, which convinced Jigme to guide them on foot to the mystic lamasery that was guarded by Hamir the Hermit, who had fallen in the Doctor Strange novel and was replaced by evil, which is why they were headed there in the first place, to repel that evil. On their journey into the snowy, icy landscape, Jigme fell and was mortally wounded, so then Valkyrie appeared, and it convinced Strange to let her take Jigme with her. A bargain in blood which took Strange ever closer to the dark, and yet they continued on, finding the lamasery, the Ancient Ones hidden in the blustery snow swirling all around them. Inside they met a girl named Krista Estes, who was playing Every Breath You Take by the Police, a song that Rintra knew right away. Then as they talked about the Ancient One's favorite Western book, Walden, which was written by this jerk named Henry David Thoreau, Aila Khan came through a portal to confront the sorcerers. From that earlier favor, Strange was able to summon Valkyrie and the Defenders to help them. And sadly, Rintra walked up with the lifeless body of Krista slumped in his arms, another victim of evil. Cloak and Dagger then traveled to meet them all. Rintra said that they reeked of darkness, and he didn't trust Cloak and Dagger. Strange offered his help to them, and then a giant hand reached out of Cloak's blackness and grabbed Dr. Strange, knocking Rintra's head and horns right into a wooden table. The evil at the source of the hand sucked them all into the cloak, leaving Rintra alone on the floor. It was the hand of Nightmare, and they were trapped in Nightmare's realm with him. But Dagger used her light to defeat Nightmare's heart of darkness, and when they teleported back, Rintra was ready to welcome them back, relieved that they were still alive. Strange continued to struggle with his reality, upset that he was starting to be seen as a black magician, and so Rintra did his best to calm Strange down. That's when Kalu appeared to him with his peace pipe, tempting him to join him in his evil as Kalu's disciple, though this would turn out to be a feint. A few issues later, and Rintra was still in Camertage, meditating at the center of the place. As he meditated there above the floor, a portal opened and Strange returned, but now with Kalu by his side. This is when Strange came back wearing his eye patch. Strange was clearly still heading down this dark path, but yet Rintra refused to judge him even though Strange asked him to. Rintra wanted to go with Strange and Kalu, but Strange said that Rintra couldn't, for their means of travel was one that only black magicians could use. And again, Rintra was left and entrusted to stand vigil, to stand guard alone against the forces of evil in a dimension not his own. A few issues later, though, he was with Kalu and the Weaver, all in disguise, as he carried a wounded Dr. Strange into the Midwest farmhouse of one Beatrice Merriweather. They had to work to repair Strange's very being, and the Weaver said to Rintra what better place to do that in than the very house he was born in. The Weaver found a mysterious woman named Alice woven into the fabric of Strange's memories, and it was Rintra's idea to let Strange's memory lead them to her, and through this, they were able to bring Dr. Strange back. The foursome found their way back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, where the Weaver said that now that this part of Strange's pattern of his life was fulfilled, it was time for himself and Rintra to return to their own dimension. Strange was safe now, and Kalu, who was indeed a valiant sorcerer and a good man who merely pretended to be a black magician, was left in the care of Strange as the two departed. In 1989's Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme issue 5, Rintra came back to Earth, returned to be the Supreme Sorcerer's full-time apprentice. The Weaver had taught Rintra all he could and passed Rintra to Strange to continue his teachings. They went back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and there they were met with the evil Baron Mordo. Rintra went in hastily to attack, but he was struck down, leaving the two sorcerers to fight alone. This eagerness and hastiness of a novice sorcerer was one of the biggest lessons that Rintra would have to learn. Dr. Strange tasked Rintra with meeting up with Topaz at the Plaza Hotel so they could then go and recover Sarah Wolf's body from an institute where she lay inert and vulnerable. He told them to take her somewhere safe, but anywhere except the Sanctum Sanctorum. While they were away, Strange had to deal with Mephisto, daughter of Mephisto, as well as Satanish. Rintra disguised himself as Howard the Duck and went to Topaz at her hotel, where when he met her, she was, as he put it, inadequately clad. When they got Sarah's body, Rintra took on the form of Rhett Butler from Gone with the Wind as a disguise. Despite what Strange said, they decided to take her body back to Bleecker Street, where the house nearly fell on top of them like the witch from Wizard of Oz. And inside the mansion, Rintra battled with Mephisto, and she struck him and the group all down just before Strange himself showed up to continue fighting her. In that fight, it was revealed that all of the artifacts Strange thought he destroyed in his earlier fight with Urthona were not in fact destroyed at all, but they landed at the feet of Strange and Rintra. Strange was different now, more colloquial in speech and now with both eyes back. And re-empowered, they defeated the demons and Mordo too. During the Acts of Vengeance event, Strange was at a TV studio for an interview with Morgana Blessing, who'd written a tell-all book about him when Hobgoblin attacked. And seeing it on television, Rintra ran all the way there from Bleecker Street, forgetting to transform his appearance, but by the time he got there, Strange had everything under control. Rintra later saw Dr. Strange making out with a lady named Amora Incantare, aka Enchantress, and Rintra was worried, telling his master that this lady was not who she appeared to be. So Rintrah used the Orb of Agamotto for the first time ever to contact Clea, who was living in the Dark Dimension. Rintrah needed Clea's help with the Witchy Seductress the Enchantress, but Clea was not immediately available to help him, so he was on his own. After tonight, he said, no one will ever again ignore Rintrah the Revenger from Raval. Rintrah confronted Enchantress, but then collapsed, which is when Doctor Strange said to her, I'm afraid my apprentice is faithful to a fault. It turns out that Doctor Strange was onto Enchantress from the beginning. Clea did eventually show up, called of course there by Rintrah. Strange then had them all mount his cloak and levitated them to confront Strange's brother Victor, who'd been turned into Baron Blood by the Darkhold-wielding Maria Laveau. Once more, Rintrah was the first to attack, lunging at Baron Blood before Strange said he'd take over. Then Marie threw a blinding potion in Rintrah's eyes and ran away with the Darkhold. Strange then transported himself, Rintrah, Morbius, the living vampire, and Morgana Blessing to Port-au-Prince, Haiti to meet with Jericho Drum, aka Brother Voodoo. Together, Jericho transported them to Kristoff's citadel, where Marie Laveau was hiding out. She didn't want to hand over the Darkhold book, fearing they'd read the Montesi formula from within it and destroy all her vampires. Laveau sent her vampires to attack, and one of them bit Rintrah, but his alien blood was not palatable for the vampires, and the vampire cried out in agony. Drum then called up a horde of zombies to fight the vampires, and they were able to get Baron Blood away from there, and without Victor, Marie was unable to call upon more vampires. Rintrah and Morgana took Victor to the Louisiana bayous to the house of Jericho Drum, but on the way on the swamp boat, Vic jumped out of the boat and ran away. Later at the Drum house, they ran into Marie Laveau again. She summoned the bull-like demon Dragonus, and the two Minotaurs battled. Dragonus versus Rintrah. With Victor's help, Rintrah got the upper hand, so before he could deal the winning blow, Marie transported Dragonus back to his dimension. The tide of battle turned, and they eventually defeated Marie Laveau. In Marvel Comics Presents 44, Strange was giving lessons to Rintrah where he was called away, left Rintrah with the task of helping Wong with the chores. But when Rintrah took the trash out, he cheated, channeling his inner Fantasia, and cast a spell of animation to move the trash, which then turned into a trash monster that Rintrah had to fight. In 1990's The Impossible Man's Summer Vacation Spectacular, the Impossible Man found his way into the Sanctum Sanctorum, where he found a confused Doctor Strange and his popcorn-eating apprentice who tripped Rintrah, and who ended up chasing him and Impossible Dog around the mansion. Impy ended up leaving, and Rintrah put a "Gone to Another Dimension" sign on the front door, clearly annoyed at the little green Impy. In Doctor Strange issue 20, Rintrah was impressed when Doctor Strange sucked Zom up with a vacuum cleaner, but the dust sucked up an injured little fairy queen who lived in the house, so Strange told Rintrah to take care of the fairy queen. In Incredible Hulk 370, Grey Hulk and Namor were at the Sanctum Sanctorum, and when Namor saw Rintrah, he went into attack. Rintrah said, "Hey, I know you. You were on that program Wong showed me last night. Star Trek. The Ears fellow, right?" Referring, of course, to Spock. Wong stopped Namor and introduced Rintrah as Strange's new disciple. Something of a departure from Clea, I would say, Namor replied. So Strange and Rintrah then went to Excalibur's mansion in England to render aid, for Nightcrawler thought he might have turned to a vampire after an ordeal with Megan, whom Captain Britain had gone after. It was later after Sarah freed Mordo that the dread Dormammu was exerting his influence on Earth and appointed Mordo as the new Sorcerer Supreme, while Dormammu had Strange trapped in his dimension. So Rintrah, Sarah, and Wong were left to defend this plane from them. After that was resolved, Doctor Strange and Rintrah had to travel to help Topaz deal with old foes, the Possessors. Strange had previously defeated them in the Bavarian Alps, but now their world and their dimension was dying, and they sought refuge in a small Colorado town. In Colorado, they were mutilating cattle, which drew the attention of Jack Russell, the werewolf by night, which also drew Topaz to the area, as she needed the hair of a werewolf to rid her of her own demon. But to do so, she asked Strange and his apprentice Rintrah for help. Things didn't quite go as planned, though, as they were all ambushed and captured by the Possessors, who took over all their forms except for Topaz, who still had that demon possessing her, so I guess she can't be double possessed. It was up to Strange in his astral form to free them and send the Possessors back to their doomed planet. In Ghost Rider issue 12, Rintrah was with Topaz while Doctor Strange dealt with Ghost Rider in an alleyway, but when he knocked Strange down, Rintrah lunged in for his own attack on Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider flipped Rintrah over into a pile of trash cans and then sped away on his flaming motorcycle. When they got up, Strange said he'd had a bad habit of underestimating his opponents lately, and Strange chastised his apprentice, telling Rintrah he must learn to control his temper, that if he'd tried to reason with Ghost Rider first, it might have been more successful. The trio then went off on their journey to find Zarathos in order to help Topaz with her quest with her soul fragments. She needed that werewolf fur, along with hellfire from Zarathos and the talon of a vampire bat, to free her from the spirit in her body. A spell of levitation allowed them to follow Ghost Rider, and they were able to fight off some demons when he needed help, reasoning that if they helped Ghost Rider, then perhaps he would help them out in turn. But Strange and Ghost Rider fought again briefly before resorting to them all talking, with Rintrah backing up his master's every word. Later, the demon-possessed Zodiac attacked Rintrah and Topaz, wounding Topaz, but it turned out to be Rintrah in disguise. Strange and Ghost Rider showed up to help, and afterwards they took the unconscious Rintrah back to Strange's mansion to heal. Strange had to cast a spell to cleanse Rintrah's body of evil magic, and then he needed to operate on his apprentice to save his life. And when he was up, though bandaged, he helped Dr. Strange rid Topaz of her possession, which was Mephisto. And in the following fight with Mephisto, Rintrah's brave yet brash self came out again, saving Topaz but finding himself wounded once more. During Infinity Gauntlet, Rintrah was right there when Strange met with Silver Surfer, Adam Warlock, Pip the Troll, and Dr. Doom, and then wished them good luck as they teleported off to fight back against the Mad Titan Thanos. And then at the end of the Infinity Gauntlet, he was with Pip the Troll when Iron Man brought Gamora back to the house, just before Adam Warlock got a hold of the Infinity Gauntlet to end that ordeal. Shortly after this, Strange continued with Rintrah's training, and after one session, they, Sarah, and Topaz were transported to Nightmare's realm, where Rintrah, Strange, and Clea had to work together to defeat Kalaku and Nox, two of the Fear Lords that also included Dweller in the Darkness, Nightmare, Despair, Strawman, and the Lurking Unknown. In Marvel Comics Presents issue 103, where Rintrah is called the Bovine Sorcerer, who was just trying to relax at Belvedere Castle in Central Park and enjoy some evening Shakespeare in the park, but people saw him and were frightened and formed an angry, ignorant mob to attack him. It was a hard lesson that Strange was trying to teach Rintrah about the nature of humans, something hard to learn from Shakespearean lessons, but one he realized once he lived it. Rintrah and Wolf didn't tell Strange what had happened at the park, but Strange saw an article in the Daily Bugle he was reading and said yes, it must have been enlightening. In the Spider-Man Doctor Strange The Way to Dusty Death graphic novel, Spider-Man found himself at the Sanctum Sanctorum where he met Rintrah for the first time, initially thinking that Rintrah was one of the demons from the Death Dimension that were influencing Belinda Morrison to keep trying to kill herself. But of course he wasn't. In the second annual for the Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme title, Rintrah was sent out on his first solo mission to take on the House of Shadows. This was to test Rintrah to see if he was yet worthy of the cloak and the amulet. So Rintrah took on the form of the priest from the movie Exorcist and went to the house, and using the vapors of Vishanti were able to defeat the House of Shadows and banish them from Earth. Later, Strange was out in his astral form when he found current Herald of Galactus Frankie Ray, aka Nova, and when he caught her, the astral form of Rintrah showed up flying next to him, and Strange scolded him for using the original cloak and amulet without asking first. They knew they had to prepare for the arrival of the Eater of Worlds, Galactus. Clea and Rintrah levitated above the streets, using their magic to block falling debris while Strange confronted Galactus, and then they used their magic to hold open a rift that Galactus had opened. Galactus took Strange away, so Rintrah did his best using the Orb of Agamotto to contact his master. Later, when Captain America and Major Victory came to Doctor Strange for help with the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Major was startled by Rintrah until Strange said not to worry, that is my apprentice. In Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme issue 51, we meet Calixis, a sorceress who had the ability to tap into the power and access the realm of a demon elder spawn named Tartarus. Agents of Calixis gave Rintrah a pamphlet for her church, and so Rintrah traveled to the church, entering during the middle of a ceremony. And as Calixis began to summon the demon, Rintrah intervened by teleporting himself right onto the top of the altar in his true form, pretending to be the summoned demon. The worshippers fled in fear at the arrival of this apparent demon, but Calixis was not fazed, and she continued her ritual, and her ritual opened a portal where a giant hand belonging to the true demon reached through and grabbed Rintrah. Calixis asked the demon to wait to consume Rintrah, and she probed Rintrah's mind, detecting he had a far superior master, and that they could use Rintrah to lure that other superior being to them. She sent some of her worshippers to the Sanctum Sanctorum to goad Doctor Strange into coming to her church, and while they were away, Calixis took control of Rintrah's mind, so by the time Strange showed up, he was fully under Calixis' control. In the battle, Strange was able to free Rintrah of her control, but then she managed to get a talisman onto Doctor Strange's head, and she then controlled Doctor Strange, wanting the demon to feast on him. The demon surged forward, slapping Calixis away in disrespect, and then pulled Doctor Strange back through the portal. Rintrah knocked the talisman away from Calixis, who was angry that she had been slapped aside, and so she opened the portal back up with the talisman, and Rintrah went through the portal and stopped the demon before the demon could eat Doctor Strange's soul. Together they made it back through the portal and back onto Earth, where Rintrah destroyed the talisman, but the talisman was rigged, and so when Rintrah destroyed it, he was destroyed too, and he became a lifeless, smoldering, burnt-out corpse. Rintrah was dead. Strange then sent Rintrah's shielded remains to another astral form for safekeeping, and to this day he still looks for a way to heal and revive his apprentice. And thus ends the comic book tale of Rintrah, which means that's a wrap on this one, my friends. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and you'll be one of the first to know when I upload videos just like this every week. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.